All right, let's get right to it. We're going to tackle a huge question today. What defines you? I mean, really think about that. In a world that's constantly screaming at us to prove our worth through what we do, how we look, who likes our posts, it is so easy to feel completely lost. So let's dig in and explore what identity really is beyond all that noise.
So let me just ask you this, straight up. When nobody's around, when the job title is gone, the followers aren't there, and all the expectations just melt away, who are you then? It's a heavy question for sure, and it's really the core of what we're going to unpack here today. So let's start with something super basic, something we all have, our name. We tie so much of our identity to it, right? But have you ever actually thought about putting a price tag on it? Like, what's it actually worth in dollars and cents?
Well, that brings me to this wild, true story about Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and a Chicago radio host named David Kaplan. Cuban made Kaplan an offer that, frankly, he thought was a total slam dunk.
Get this. Cuban offered him $100,000, cash. All he had to do was legally change his name to Dallas Maverick for just 1 year. Can you imagine? $100,000 for your name? What would you do?
And when Kaplan didn't immediately jump on it, Cuban sweetened the deal. He threw in another $100,000 for Kaplan's favorite charity. So now we're talking $200,000 sitting on the table. The pressure was really on. Okay, so for real, would you do it? For that kind of money, would you give up your name for 365 days? I mean, tons of his listeners were calling in saying he'd be absolutely crazy to say no.
And yet, he said no. His reason was so simple but so powerful. He said, "My name is my birthright. I'd like to preserve my integrity and credibility." For him, some parts of who we are just aren't for sale.
So Kaplan was rock solid in his identity. But what happens when you know who you are, but the world just doesn't believe you? Let's dive into another story, a very strange case of mistaken identity. Okay, so this is a weird one, but it's a true story. Picture this. The FBI is in the middle of a raid at a psychiatric hospital. After a few hours, the agents get hungry. So the guy in charge decides to order pizza. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, so he gets on the phone and places this monster order, 19 large pizzas and 67 sodas. I mean, for any pizza place, that's a dream order, you'd think. But then the guy on the other end asks, "And where are we delivering this to?" The agent says, "We're over at the psychiatric hospital."
You can just imagine the dead silence on the line. The pizza guy is, understandably skeptical. He's like, "The psychiatric hospital? And you're an FBI agent?" And the agent's response, "That's correct. Just about everybody here is." Probably didn't help his case much. The identity he was claiming just did not match the situation.
And click. The pizza man hung up on him. He just flat out did not believe a word of it. The agent knew exactly who he was, but his identity was totally rejected because to the guy on the other end, it made zero sense. It really shows how fragile our identity can feel to the outside world. Okay, so we've seen how your identity can be treated like something you can buy and sell, or how it can just be flat out disbelieved by others. And honestly, this constant need to prove or defend who you are, it's exhausting. But what if there's a totally different way to look at all of this? The source material we're drawing from suggests a huge shift from an identity you have to earn to one that's simply given. This feeling, this is what the source calls an identity crisis. It's that constant noise telling you that your value is based on your performance, your appearance, or your popularity. It's draining, and it always leaves you wondering, am I good enough? And this slide right here gets to the heart of it. On one hand, you've got the world's view that identity is something you earn. You have to prove your worth through success and achievement. But the view from our source material flips that completely on its head. It says your identity isn't earned, it's given. Your value is already there simply because you exist. And the foundation for this idea of a given identity comes from this passage in Genesis. The big takeaway here is that human value isn't based on what we accomplish, but on the fact that we're made in the image of a creator. That is a fundamental, game-changing shift. Okay, so if we roll with this idea, this given identity, what does that actually look like in real life, day to day? Well, it kind of unfolds into a practical framework of new relationships, new rights, and even new responsibilities. It's kind of like a three-part package. First, it redefines your relationship. You're seen as a child and an heir. Second, that relationship gives you certain rights.
You have the right to live with joy and to be free from that constant crushing fear and anxiety. And third, it's not a free-for-all. It comes with a responsibility to represent this new family name with pride.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. How does adopting this perspective actually change the way you see yourself when you look in the mirror? When you boil it all down, it comes to this one powerful shift. Your identity is no longer defined by what you can do. The source material argues that it's defined by what has already been done for you. It's a move away from the treadmill of achievement and into a place of acceptance.
And this idea is so beautifully summed up in a paraphrase from Psalm 139. The message is basically this. God says, I know you completely, every single part of you, and you are wonderfully made. Not you will be wonderful when, but you are right now.
And so that leaves us with one last question to chew on, and it might just be the most important one. If you stopped striving to prove your worth, if you truly believe that your value is already set and secure, what would you be free to do? What changes when you get off that hamster wheel? That's something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining us.